In this video, I'm going to talk about the 4 biggest ranking factors for e-commerce brands. I'm Tyler Nelbuck, the founder of SEO Align. I've helped dozens of fashion brands improve their revenue with my SEO process. So let's go ahead and dive in right away. So the first ranking factor I want to talk about is your page relevance. So I'm just going to look at this random brand. I have no affiliation with this brand whatsoever, but this is just Alina handbags. I'm going to come over to their leather bags category. So I'm just going to use this page as an example for this right now, and we're going to look at the keyword leather bags. So a few things you want to look at here is first, you want to make sure your page is crawlable and indexed. So a really good way to do this is to just take this URL. I have the detailed Chrome extension here that can just show me information about the specific page. I see it's indexable. It has a self-referencing canonical tag, which is perfect. Then what I'm going to do is, even though it's indexable, that doesn't mean it's indexed. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that it is indexed. So I'm going to do a site : and then I'm going to search the URL. If it shows up here, it does. That means the page is indexed. So we're good to go on that front. So the next thing I want to talk about is what you actually need to do on the page. So first thing, you need to identify a keyword. So we've kind of already done that. We've identified that we want to rank for leather bags. So pretty broad keyword, pretty competitive keyword. So it's going to take a lot of effort if we want to rank for this keyword. But I'm going to show you how you can go after keywords that are a little bit more specific that aren't quite as competitive. But right now, we're going to look at leather handbags. So biggest things you want to make sure is you want to make sure the keyword that you're targeting, in this case leather handbags, you want to make sure it's in the title tag, the meta description, the H1, and then the content on the actual page. So their title tag is leather bags. They have the main keyword in there, which is important. I think they could take up more space, have leather bags for women or something like that, something to have a little bit more modifiers in here to rank for other variations of this keyword. Meta description is empty. I would definitely add just like a 2 to 3 sentence meta description, just talking about your leather bags in this example. So that's what I do for the title tag meta description. Their H1, if I go to headings, so their H1 is leather bags. Perfect. Love that. One thing I noticed is they don't have any text content on the page. So what you want to do with these collection pages is you want to make sure you have content on here. And so if you're using Shopify, a lot of times this is going to be the collection description. And you just want to make sure that you have that underneath the products. You don't want to have a long collection description that is pushing down the products. It's going to create a bad user experience, and that's actually going to hurt your SEO in your conversions. So make sure you have content underneath the products here, and it could just be 2 to 3 paragraphs talking about the products, and also make sure to internally link to other collection pages where it makes sense. So those are the most important things when you're making sure that your page is actually relevant for the keyword that you're going after. So this is the first thing you should do, super important step here. Okay, and then the second ranking factor I want to talk about is topical depth. So this is super important. Really, Google is looking at, when they're ranking websites for particular keywords, they're looking at a bunch of different things, but some of the most important things that they're looking at is your overall site authority and then your topical authority. And so if you have strong topical authority, which basically means you cover a specific topic really, really well on your website, that means that you're going to have a much greater chance ranking in the search results, and you're going to be able to rank bigger brands that don't have quite as much topical authority. So the best way to do that is, so in this example, if you're looking at the keyword bags, for example, they have pretty good topical authority because they have a bunch of different types of bags. But what I'm seeing with leather bags is they don't have a ton of topical authority with leather bags because they just have this one category page for leather bags, and then they have their products. If they want to create more topical authority, there's a few different ways you could do this. My favorite way to do this right now is to create more category pages. So in this case, they've got a leather bag category. What they should do is they should create another category for leather shoulder bags. See what else we got here. Leather tote bags, stuff like that, because the more categories they have that are kind of a subcategory within the leather bags category, it just creates more topical authority. And then what it does is it allows you to rank for leather shoulder bags, leather tote bags, and so you're bringing in more traffic from more specific keywords that convert really, really well. But then it also ends up helping this parent category of leather bags rank better because you now have topical authority. So that's something that's super important. you also want to make sure all of these are linked together. So when I talked about the content underneath the products here, you'd want to make sure you link out to those other subcategory pages, link out to the leather shoulder bags, the leather tote bag categories, and then from those subcategories, link back to this leather bags category too. So that kind of tying those together, that's a super important aspect to get Google to understand. Just that topical authority cluster is a really big piece. So would definitely recommend doing that. This brand does not have that in place, but it would be a good step for them to build more topical authority, and they'd be able to take advantage of more traffic that way too. Okay, the third ranking factor I want to talk about is internal link coverage. So talked a little bit about this in that second ranking factor with the topical authority, but it's really, really important that the pages that you want to get ranked in Google, you need to be signaling that this is a very important page on your site. So the best ways to do that is, in this case, we're looking at leather bags. Make sure it's in the menu navigation. So in this case, this page is. So that's perfect, because when you do that, you're telling Google and this isn't necessarily a Google play, but when Google sees that, it's very, very clear to them that this leather bags collection page is important on the site. If you don't have that linked in the menu navigation and it's just really hard to find, just buried within the site architecture, it's a signal to Google that it's not that important of a page for you. So that's something that's important. If you can include it in the menu navigation, I know in not all situations you can, because it's got a lot of different categories, stuff like that. But if you can include it in the menu navigation, that is a super important signal. And I've seen rankings be impacted a lot just by adding a category page to that menu navigation. So super important there. Also, make sure you're internally linking to this page from other important pages on your site. So a really good way to do that, I'm not sure if this brand is doing it, but they don't have content on their category pages, so they're not. But they could have in their straw bags content. If they added that underneath the products, they could then internally link to the leather bags just by saying, if you're interested in leather bags, here's that category. And the more you're able to do this from your important pages, so especially pages that bring in traffic and pages that get backlinks, Google knows and looks at those pages with high importance. And when you're internally linking from these important pages to another page, it's a really strong signal to Google that that page that you're internally linking to, so this leather bags page in that example, is also really important. So make sure you're doing that. I see brands get this wrong all the time, where they just don't have the internal links. They don't have that coverage, and Google has no reason to believe that this page is important. So that's a really, really strong ranking factor. So make sure you're taking advantage of that internal link coverage. Okay, and ranking factor number 4 is authority. So basically, authority is built in a couple different ways. We talked about topical authority. We talked a little bit about site authority. So topical authority, like we talked about, is just making sure you're covering all of the different topics around the specific keyword that you're trying to rank for. So ranking for keywords that are even more specific than leather bags is a good way to do that, having more category pages. You can create blog content if it makes sense, but just make sure it's a blog piece that actually makes sense. It's a space that you can actually add value, and you're not just creating a blog post just to try to add topical relevance. Make sure it's something you're actually able to provide value for. And those, in the example with the category pages, that's why I like those so much, is because you're able to actually add value with those collection pages. You're able to categorize them in a way that people are actually looking for them. So people are searching leather shoulder bags, and so if you can have a category page for that, you're actually adding value, you're helping there. So that's the topical authority side. Site authority, how you build that is super important. Is you need to get links from other websites. So you need to have other websites that are relevant to in this case, the bag space, and you need to have them pointing backlinks to your specific site. And ideally, you've got backlinks to your homepage, and you've got sites that are linking to internal pages on your site too, like your collection pages. So using a mix of digital PR strategies and outreach strategies, you should be trying to drive really high authority links to the homepage that feature your brand. And then you should be trying to drive links to the category pages that you're trying to get ranked. So you can do that in a variety of ways. So you could create digital PR stories that you push out to journalists that link to your specific website that if they cover it, if they publish it, it links to your homepage. You could also use platforms like Quoted or Featured, where journalists are looking for expert quotes to include in an article, and you can pitch a quote where they could use your quote, link back to your website. That's a really good way to do it. To get links to your collection pages, you can reach out, you can do guest posts, you can ask for a website to add a link to your site in exchange for either a link to their site, or you can pay them for that link. It's just really important that you're getting links from relevant sites. In this case, sites that are actually talking about bags, sites that are in the fashion industry. It's really important that they're good websites. You don't just want links just to get links. You want them to be relevant. You want the websites you're getting links from to actually get organic traffic in your industry. That's another important factor too. But this building authority is such an important factor in Google. So you just want to make sure that you are getting links to your homepage, you're getting links to your category pages, and make sure those links are from really good websites. So if you have a fashion brand and you want help taking advantage of these ranking factors, I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description where you can book a call with me to see if we'd be a good fit to work together. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.